today I want to do a video where I'm going to share with you what's on my Kindle. I use my Kindle all the time, every day of my life since I got it. It's one of my favorite ways to read, and I'll have another video where I'll share with you why and kind of the perks of having a Kindle versus a physical book. But I do love physical books as well, and if I find an ebook that I like to get a physical copy, and I would read a physical copy. So it's not like I'm exclusively reading on Kindle. However, when I apply for early copies of books through NetGalley, I find it that it's easier to read in my Kindle than reading in my phone. So that's why I'm going to share with you some of the titles that I'm looking forward in 2025 that I got through NetGalley. Now, this is just so you have an idea of how the library looks like if you don't have a Kindle. Now, the first one that I got a couple of days ago, and it will be released on January 7, 2025, is the new book by Adrienne Young, and it's called A Sea of Unspoken Things. And I don't know if you can see it right there, but it's this title here in the middle. This is a story of Johnny and James, and James is a woman, and they are twins. Now, they had that connection that twins have, and that it's been covered in books over and over again. And when Johnny dies, she immediately knows that he's gone, even before they call her to let her know that her brother just died. Now, eventually she goes to their hometown of Six Rivers in California and kind of face what happened to them growing up. And part of that is facing this person by the name of Micah. Now, as she gets there, she starts to find out that she didn't know her brother as much as she thought she did. And all of these events are leading up to his death. So in the end, she has to decide if she really wants to know that information, if that information should come to the light, or if it's something that should still be buried. Now, the next one that I have here that will be the next one to be released is Grady and Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And I've started this one. This will be released on January 14th, 2025. Now, I already started this book, and it starts with this 15-year-old girl who is been taken by her father to a house in Florida. Now, this is a house where they used to take, this is a book that takes place in the 70s, and this is a house where people used to send their girls that would get pregnant before they were married. Now, it kind of, in the beginning of this book, it tells you how, they were driving. She didn't even want to stop to go to the bathroom because she didn't have a wedding ring, and people will look at her kind of interestingly and judging her a lot. So that's how the story begins, and then she goes and she gets set up at this house. Now, the relationship with the father is so heartbreaking. The way that he's talking about her, he's talking to her, it really tells you a story, because at the same time you're learning the kind of person that she is. Now, when she gets to this house, she meets all these other girls who are also pregnant, and they can't even share their names, because remember that once they get out of the house, they will put those babies to be adopted, and then they'll move on to their normal lives, and nobody would know that they were ever pregnant. However, they find a book, and that book is going to be what makes a difference. And I think it's going to be such a wild ride, and I cannot wait to finish it. The next one that we have here, it's called We Are Watching by Allison Galen. And I don't know if you can see it over there, but that is the cover. And okay, so I'll tell you how this book starts, because again, I started this book already, and this will be released on January 28th, 2025. And this is a story of a family. It kind of lost me in the beginning, because they were moving their daughter to her dorm at her college, university, wherever she was gonna stay. And the father and the mother are taking her, and they're having all this question: is she even gonna want to come back to our house? What can I do to make it more homey and have her, you know, come back and look forward to coming back during the Thanksgiving break? And I have two kids that are in that phase, and I remember the first year that one of my kids left for college, she moved 9 hours away from us, and it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And I drove her, and the drive was a nightmare. But it has nothing to do with this nightmare, because they are driving in the highway. The mom is driving, the father is by her, and then the daughter is in the back. They're having this awkward interaction inside the car, and then they go by this car, and there's two guys that look very scary. Their appearance is very scary, and they're staring at their daughter, and like they're staring, like looking right closer to the window, the glass, and just staring at her. And clearly that's all they care about. They're looking. So they're doing this kind of like game with high speed to try to catch up to them, or they would try to slow down and then they would do the same. It's crazy what happens on the road, but eventually it ends very tragically, and that's where our story begins. Now that's where I am in that book, so I'm really into it, and I cannot wait to come back to it. The next one is Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister, and it's this one right here. Now, this is a story of a couple, and she was out on maternity leave, and the book starts with her with a first day going back to work. And she wakes up, she takes care of the baby, she kind of goes through what she's doing, you know, the routine with the baby, and she's looking for her husband, Luke, and he's not there. And she's like, what the heck? I mean, where is he? You know, this is a very important day. I need to go back to work. I'm kind of in a hurry. I wish I had help, but he's not around. Eventually, she finds this cryptic note. Now she goes drop off her daughter at daycare, and she goes to work. But then eventually she learns that there is this hostage situation happening, and eventually the police contact her to tell her that her husband is involved. And not only that, he is not a hostage. He is part of whoever is keeping these people hostage. I don't know if it's an organization, whatever it is. The interesting part is that she knows something the police doesn't, and it's what he wrote on that note. So that is why it's called Famous Last Words. And I started already this book, and it sounds amazing, so I'm hoping to have a great time. Now, the next one will be released on March 25th, 2025, and it's called This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead, and it's this one up here. If it will focus, it's this one right here. Now, this is a story of Jane, and Jane loses her father, and she decides to find some kind of distraction by going and investigating true crimes online. So she finds this community online where they all are kind of amateur sleuths that are going and investigating real cases that are happening, until something happens in Idaho, which reminds me of the college kids in Idaho. So she decides to go to Delphine, Idaho, and investigate what really is happening. Now, because of what the premise is, it's kind of suggesting that the more they investigate, the more questions that they have, and that the police are kind of being cagey around this case, and they're not only not telling because of the investigation, but every time they find some evidence, it's really leaving more questions than trying to help these murders. However, a year later, she is going to speak up and finally solve this mystery. So I don't know what I'm in for, but I'm ready. Now, the other one is The Bachelorette Bachelorette Party by Camilla Sten, and this is what the cover looks like in case you haven't seen it. Now, this is a story of 4 ladies by the name Tilly, Anna, Linnea, and Evelina, and they used to go to this island off the coast of Sweden every year and have one night of partying and chatting and having good old girl time. However, we then fast forward 10 years and we find Tessa, who is a podcaster, or she was really an amateur sleuth that turned into a podcaster, and she really wants to know what happened to those girls that eventually disappeared. So now she is about to get married, and her best friend decides why not go to that island for the bachelorette party so she could have a good time. But also Tessa is trying to investigate or kind of look into what really happened to these 4 girls. So I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. It sounds really interesting, and I do love a podcast element in my stories. Now, I also have a few other things here on my Kindle, like Infinite Country, which is by Patricia Engel, and that's what it looks like. I did get that one from Book of the Month. I'm waiting for my physical copy. This is an immigrant story that is really close to my heart, and it's kind of a shorter book too. It's not super long, but I really wanted to have it here on my Kindle to start working on it while I was away for the holidays. The other book that I have is The Last Room on the Left, right there. And that one is one of the most anticipated books. I have a video where I share with you some of my most anticipated from different authors, new releases, and so that's one that I want to get to. It doesn't have a cover, so I'm not going to show you. And then Witness 8 by Stephen Kavanaugh, which I thought it was just, you know, it sounds really interesting. Now I have a bunch of other things here, like some books in Spanish by Tana French. I have Heather Goodenkoff, Mary Kubica, and some of my favorite author Alex Finley. I really want to read the last 2 books from his backlist that I haven't read, and of course I'm gonna download them to my Kindle. And of course it also shows some of the books that I got through Audible. I didn't like We Used to Live Here, but I guess it's still here. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy going through my Kindle and what's in my library. Is there any book that you're looking forward that I mentioned in this video? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for being here today, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.